This is Johnny Dosco. Stay tuned for another Score Sheet podcast. Holy Kadelka!
Time for our weekly fantasy football preview with some tips on players to put into your starting lineup this week, as well as some that might warrant a benching. First, here's our list of buys this week, which is the final bye week of the NFL season. And as we head into week 11, there are some big injuries on the board at quarterback throughout the NFL. It looks like Houston's Matt Schaub is likely out for the season, meaning Matt Leinart takes over after their bye week. The news in Philadelphia is bad enough with the team's poor play so far this season, but now Michael Vick reportedly has a couple of broken ribs to make matters worse. Needless to say, it should be an interesting week. First up on the starting lineups, let's go with quarterback Alex Smith. Now, he's not a guy who will put up big numbers, but he proved last week that he can deliver when called upon. And while this week could be a letdown game for the Niners after a big win over the Giants in Week 10, I expect Smith to continue to be the steady and mistake-free quarterback he's been so far this season. With Frank Gore banged up a bit, the ball could be in the air a little more when Arizona travels to San Francisco. Now this one's a little bolder. Last week, the Patriots' offense returned to life against the Jets, and while he didn't have big numbers, wide receiver Chad Ochocinco had his biggest reception of the year with a 53-yard gainer that helped open things up. This week, he gets a chance in the Monday night spotlight against a team that should be much easier to score upon, the Kansas City Chiefs. Perhaps the end zone for the first time this season awaits Ochocinco. Running back Sean Green has been inconsistent for the Jets this season, but should get the ball early and often against the Broncos in the Thursday night game. In an effort to limit mistakes, expect Coach Rex Ryan to make running the ball a priority. And LaDainian Tomlinson may not play, or at least could be a little less effective than he would normally be, giving Green the lion's share of opportunities. Next up is quarterback Sam Bradford, who finally gets a start at home. Since returning to action in Week 9, the home crowd should help, as well as a Seattle defense that is up and down and often struggles on the road. Bradford should be in line for his best Sunday this season. The Redskins are floundering while the Cowboys have turned things around after a struggling start. That trend should continue this week as these two bitter rivals face off in Washington. Look for wide receiver Dez Bryant to have a big game as the Redskins defense simply has nobody that can match up with his size and speed. And with a healthy Tony Romo throwing the ball, Bryant should get plenty of chances to score. Now let's take a look at some guys that might warrant a spot on the bench for this week. Quarterback Phillip Rivers has the challenge of trying to break the Chargers' 4-game losing streak against a Bears defense that dominated the Lions last week. While the yardage numbers may be there for Rivers, so will the mistakes that have dropped him from elite quarterback status this season. Another quarterback, Josh Freeman, has found the going much tougher in 2011 than he did last season as he helped the Bucs make a surprising playoff run that fell just short. He has 7 interceptions and 4 TDs over the last 3 games. This week, he'll be going against a Green Bay defense that will throw all kinds of looks at him aimed at forcing mistakes. As with many young quarterbacks, Freeman is likely to fall prey. Next up is wide receiver Roddy White of the Falcons. Where has he been lately? It seems like Matt Ryan keys on his tight end Tony Gonzalez and the other wideouts far more than White these days. Now they face a Tennessee defense that completely shut down Cam Newton and his main target, Steve Smith, in Week 10. This does not look like a good opportunity for White to get back on track. Running back Beanie Wells is also in a tough spot this week with his matchup in San Francisco. While both teams are coming off big wins in Week 10, it will be difficult for the Cards to continue their momentum against a 49er run defense that has been outstanding this season. Probably best to give Wells the week off. And finally, it's a good week to leave Michael Vick on the bench as well. As mentioned earlier, he reportedly has a couple of broken ribs after a hit last week, which means his throwing accuracy and ability to run should be severely hampered. And that'll do it for Week 10. Go out and have a great fantasy football week.